get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. I got a very special guest. He's coming back on the show today. We had a really great conversation last time. Their product is legitimately revolutionizing how carrier compliance and vetting and all of this stuff is going on. And it's through securing the gate, right? Like, how are you checking this information before the driver even gets access to your customer's freight? We got a lot to catch up on here. So I want to welcome my good friend, Mr. Tom Dean, back on the show. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to join me here this morning.
Chris, thanks a lot for having me, man. Love it.
No, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I should have just hit go live when you and I were talking before the show there, because, man, it's like nothing's slowing down. And what I'm seeing is, you know, and I've been saying this for a while now, like with all the advancements in theft and double brokering and fraud and on the tech side to stop it, I feel like we are in that Wild West era now where it's that mad dash for cash. They know that their window's probably starting to get closed here. So they're going to ramp things up here for the next, I mean, who knows, right? Could be 24 months, 3 years. I don't know.
Yep. Well, and interestingly, in the last time I was on, you're the first person that brought up to me this idea, which I think is completely legit, of the acceleration of fraud and theft because they see that window closing. And I'd never thought about that before, but it is most certainly accelerating. And now we've been spending a lot of time talking with our customers about the flip side of the theft coin. So you have fraud and theft, but now it's also going to risk management. And some of these nuclear verdicts are showing that this is no joke, that you may lose a $200,000 load, but you could get smacked with $100 million judgment against you.
Yeah, I think a lot of brokers need to be very aware of the environment that, and again, because like I just had, anytime I see a high profile case come out, Tom, I always wait for my friends who are attorneys in the industry to come on the shoot so they're able to come on and really break these things down. Because, as you know, everybody's got a JD on the internet. Everybody's a lawyer and everything else, ChatGPT lawyer. And, I look at some of the facts of that case that have been released right now. And, a lot of brokers are kind of put on notice on how they are operating. And I think ultimately now this is something, again, I've never publicly said this, and I'm just kind of thinking of this for the first time. I could be wrong. The next game might be the nuclear verdict game of like, how can we pin what the broker or the shipper said against us?
Yes. And
then sue them for whatever. And then that's the next mad dash for cash. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
I know. I think it is. It's a well-known plaintiff's lawyer playbook, right? Like, just go back and look at the tobacco lawsuits in the 80s and 90s. And it's the exact same, or pharmaceutical lawsuits that happen, this is the identical playbook that the plaintiff's lawyers know by heart. And so I think that people need to take it seriously and really be managing their risk. And I bet before the show, I told you I've got a pretty wild story for you. So if you don't mind, I'll kind of
let's roll.
Long and windy, but if you'll bear with me. So we have a great customer who a year ago, maybe 18 months ago, was very concerned with theft. So they were seeing fraud, and it was relating to theft, and they've got their product is high value, so they wanted to protect it at all costs. So we worked with them, and one of the things we did was we integrated with all their brokers. So we're getting data directly from all their brokers, and they were asking about getting information around drivers and things at dispatch. And for a year, these brokers were really challenged to get the data. They didn't have it, and they didn't really, want to go get it. Eventually they did, because the shipper said, hey, look, we have to do this. So this took a year to get all of the brokers involved in this. And there's like 100 of them. It's a lot. So fast forward to about a month ago, I was at a prospective customer's warehouse, and they showed me their schedule. And so I said, hey, could you show me what you're getting from your broker? And they showed it to me. And the broker happened to be one that I know very well, because we'd gone through this big process with this other customer. They were sending all of the driver information down to the shipper. And I asked him, I said, did you ask for that information, all of this that I'm seeing here? And they said, no, it just started showing up. And I said, could you see if it started showing up before or after May 14th? Yeah, that was 2 weeks after May 14th. So what was happening is that broker, they understood the risk with the Montgomery ruling that we're now seeing the repercussions of, and they are transferring it down to the shipper. And I think that that's happening to all of these big, high-valued shippers across the country, where it is a game of, and it's not a game, it's serious, but it's passing down the accountability to the ultimate end person who is really running your gate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I look at the relationships that brokers and shippers can have out there, and brokers and carriers even. And, I understand that everybody's got to make money, but as somebody who's been a broker for a very long time, I know that sometimes it's only really about the rate that they're getting quoted to, depends on the truck that they're going to send in for that. Right. And it goes against the gut check, right? Like, you have a conversation with somebody like, God, something just doesn't sound right, but they're cheaper than everybody else. Let's roll. I don't know if you're going to be able to do anything like that anymore. And when you're looking at it from a risk management perspective, if you're a broker right now, and, to tie in the lawsuits and everything that come with it, the insurance is only going to cover so much. So unless you got millions and millions in liquid that you can pay out in a lawsuit, there's going to be the potential for an absolute spike in bankruptcy is going to be insane, or like it's just going to be a fire sale, right? People are be like, I'm done. The risk isn't worth it, but it doesn't have to get to that point, right? Yep. And one thing that I see is it is just a lot of very basic vetting procedures that you need to follow out there, and it's not just, hey, we got them set up this one time, now let's just wait for this insurance certificate. Like, you got to be monitoring these things. And, that's one thing that, we do very well here with our operation is like, we are out there, like, we're vetting these guys 24/7, right? Even our core carriers, if there's anything out there that starts to like raise a red flag, we're going to not work with them anymore, because like, to me, it's not worth it over the long run, because it takes, this, you've built a business. It takes a lot of work to get somebody to give you money for a service or a product that you are providing. They will not hesitate to pull all of that away. And I think it is that fine line between ethical and non-ethical decision-making process at the desk level that works its way up. And I just think that we are beyond a point where somebody can claim ignorance as a business and say that's a rogue operator. No, if there is no way to, like, honestly, I know that it's guilty or innocent until proven guilty, but I don't think that we're in that environment. You're guilty until you can prove that this is not a systematic failure internally, that you guys just do not do your job.
Yep. Oh, I completely agree with that. And one other thing that we're seeing, because, our customers are generally either the 3PL or the shipper, the people that are actually operating the gate. And when we started, I think I told you in the last podcast, I didn't come out of this industry. So I was new 6 years ago to the industry. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that, oftentimes transportation and warehousing are kind of working as silos. Mm-hmm. And it's not that they're opposite, or that they're conflicting, but they just kind of worked independently.
Yeah.
Right. And both of them have valuable information in this carrier vetting process that's always going on, right? Because, you have different information. You have all the historical information, and the warehouse has what's happening on the ground right now. And I think the combination of that what we're seeing with our customer base is because the fraud is so high, and it's either going to theft or risk management. And it's, those are kind of both sides of the same, or two sides of the same coin. But I see more information sharing. And so maybe one of the good things that will come out of this is that the warehousers and the transportation, that they're going to be more freely sharing information that is augmenting each other's decisions. Because there's so much good that can come from that.
No, I agree, right? Like, and I think that no matter what, I think the providers, whether you're a trucking company or a broker alike, you need to be aware that it is, if you're doing things the right way out there, you are going to be rewarded at a level in the not so distant future that I don't know if enough people can even comprehend. Because, again, it's like, I look at it where, go fully transparent, going to jail is like my biggest fear in life. It's like legitimately. And if I'm going to run a business, I'm going to be above the board, even at my own personal expense in the short term, right? Like, fast cash is very, very appealing to a lot of people, especially when your credit card bill's up and your bills are due and, somebody's got this great idea for you. But I look at with where things are now, where it's like the providers that are doing things the right way. Like, if you're an asset provider and you have all your documentation readily available, your drivers are on point, same with the brokers, and you're able to share that information to your shippers, like, you're going to start seeing more and more opportunities, because the risk is just not going to be worth it anymore to a lot of these companies or the shippers that are out there. And, we like to implement, like a core carrier base. And I talk about this on the show all the time. Like 80 to 85% of our freight is pre-booked with the same handful of trucking companies. Our shippers request these drivers because they've been coming in so many times. And is it at our own expense at times? Like, yes, if you look at it from a straight dollars and cents thing, does it cost us more money? Probably. But like, here's what we really don't have to deal with on the back end. And it's a lot of the BS that is starting to come to light here, because like, I just want to be brutally transparent with all of our customers, good, bad, or indifferent. They're going to know exactly what's going on. And I just know over the course of my 15 years of brokering freight, Tom, I have never once had a customer tell me, hey, Chris, stop sending in that great driver. He's doing too much good for us out there.
Yep. No, I agree. And I'm hearing this more and more from our shipper customers that at higher and higher levels. I think that a lot of the manufacturers and some of the CPG companies and things, they're so big, and their focus, if you're running those companies, is on, manufacturing and on the entire supply chain, which includes coming from foreign countries and things. That's a very big, complex thing. And in the actual logistics of it, I think, has somewhat been an afterthought, because even though it's large, it's not large compared to, tens of billions of dollars of assets. But now with these nuclear verdicts, looking at them, I think it's getting more importance to them, at least from the ones I talk to. So they want to be more conscientious about who they're doing business with. And I think for good brokers and good carriers, this is a huge opportunity to be really differentiating yourself with the big shippers.
Yeah, I think that the requirements, the barrier to entry is going to, even though not by law, it's not out there for certain aspects of it, but the more buttoned up you are as a provider out there, like, we'll just talk brokers here because I'm a broker. If you don't have insurance for whatever reason, I don't know if you're going to be able to be moving freight here forever, right? Like, I think that window is slowly starting to close, because by law, brokers don't need insurance, but like, I think the larger the shippers that are out there, Tom, it is a requirement. Like, hey, if you want our stuff, you got to be insured.
Yep.
I think that the vetting processes are going to be an biannual thing. I could see it every 6 months. What are you guys doing? Are you still doing it this way? And I think that having those SOPs behind the scenes that's going to be your greatest sales point as a broker, where it's like, hey, we don't just run and gun. This is our actual carrier selection strategy. This is our risk management. If this happens, this carrier is now disqualified to haul our freight. That is going to become the reality here. And especially like the lawsuit that was just, last week with Robinson, or the last 2 weeks, that's just the start of things. I think I think we're going to start seeing a lot more. I hope it's not every week, but I'm just going to use that for an excitement standpoint. I think it could be like a weekly thing here. This 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever that looks like, that now all these cases that were once, that are maybe they're still under appeal, or like they're going to be pushing this stuff now, because like the blood is in the water, dollar signs are in the air, and people are going to be going after that.
Yep. So we've recently started doing more work with brokers in the virtual validation space. So, we've been validating truck drivers at the gate when they arrive. That's been our core business for a long time. But now we've started to take that to a virtual space for brokers. So we do this with a few of the really large brokers and their federal government contracts. So the government, as you probably know, and it's not all the government, it's just some of the departments, but they've instituted policies around what types of drivers they will load. And so, like, for example, a couple of their criteria are they will not load non-domiciled CDLs, they will not load temporary CDLs, and they will not load CDLs issued from outside the United States. So generally that would be Canadian or Mexican driver's license. Yeah. But anyway, what we're doing is working with the brokers to validate all of that before the drivers ever arrive at a government facility. We started doing it about 6 months ago. But that was because the brokers wanted to protect that business, right? They wanted to say, hey, look, this is the government's rule, so I want to bring good drivers so they don't get turned away, and that gives me more business with the government. But now they've taken that and said, hey, this should become part of our ongoing carrier vetting process, where we're putting this into the carrier scorecard. And so we're giving them reports that say, here's how many drivers you dispatched out, here's how many we had validated against your rules, here's how many failed. And then, you can go into your carrier conversations with a lot more information down to the person level.
How do you see from your perspective, obviously you talk to a lot of shippers out there, how do they look at carrier procurement now moving forward? Like, what are the expectations going to be for anybody to haul their freight? Is it going to be more like, hey, we need photos of every driver, we need photos of the CDL, truck and trailer photos, like they're just going to overly document everything? Are you seeing that?
Yeah. And I see it because that is our core business, right? That is what we do. So people come to talk to us that want to do those things. So there's some selection bias there. But everyone we work with wants all of that documented. And as you'd mentioned in your LinkedIn post about our podcast today, we just announced our partnership with GenLogs. And that's part of this, right? We go and it can automatically go out, run things through GenLogs, bring it back, and then we have it all stored at the load level, the carrier level. And so then the shipper can easily sort through this information, categorize it, and see who's being compliant, who's not. But what I've done a lot of recently is shown people examples of like the government's loading criteria and said, this is what departments in the United States government are doing. This may be enough. It may not be enough. That I don't know. But here's an example about what you need to be doing in order to load drivers and carriers. And you need to document it, and you need to have it stored so that if, heaven forbid, there is an accident, well, you can reproduce all of this, and you can say, here is my policy and I followed it. And so that's what we enable. And I think that's just going to proliferate. I think right now it's the sophisticated shippers that have a lot of brand equity. They care a lot about, their name. But I think it's going to get more and more pervasive, because one of the things you see in that the really large settlement that was announced a week or two ago, if you go and read all of the counterparties that were involved in the lawsuit, only one is still in business. And that is the one that got hit with the big number. Everyone else is gone because they were all small. Well, then apply that to the shippers. I mean, ultimately, the shipper will be the last one in business, and they're the one with the deepest pockets. So I think this will just become more and more prevalent through the industry, where everyone's going to require it. But then the idea is it can be shared back.
Do you think that the shipper community is now very aware that their numbers probably going to be called here in regards to these lawsuits. And I know that people, like that one in Home Depot in the state of Texas with Warner and everything, that and for those of you guys who aren't aware of it, this came out like literally the week or within a couple of days of the Montgomery case at the Supreme Court level. And if you just Google Home Depot, Warner in Texas, it's going to pop up and put all that out there. But do you think now more than ever, they are going to be looking at who is hauling their freight at a higher level? Because like, what if they are working with a chameleon carrier and they don't even know? What if they are working, like there's chameleon brokers out there too, right? Like let's call, I think we got to draw a line in the sand, Tom. It's shady carriers and providers and people who are doing it the right way. Like, because they're on all sides of it, right? And I'm going to throw the shipper community in there too, right? Like there's plenty of people out, like not everybody who air quote pays the invoice is an ethical provider that's out there. Some of them don't care. What is it going to take? And again, I hope none of this stuff happens, that they are going to look at everybody who's in their network of providers. Is it going to be a company like a Home Depot? And again, this is a hypothetical situation, being pulled in and losing $100-200 million lawsuit. And then the broker, the carrier, everybody is out of business and everything else because something slipped through the cracks. Do you think it's going to take to get to that for that to happen? Or are they already looking at that right now?
No, I think it's going to take that. There are a lot of them. A lot of what I'm doing now is educating people. And, so like if you go back to the tobacco example, Altria is the name of the parent company of all of the Philip Morris in the United States. After all that stuff happened, they got rid of the name Philip Morris because the brand destruction was so bad when all that happened. And I think that, it's going to take something pretty brutal to get a lot of these shippers to get, to start doing all of this, because people just don't pay attention. Now, there are some that are very forward thinking. I'm working with some that are like, this is absolutely a risk. We need to address it. But that's probably a third of those that I talk to. 2/3 of them are, this will never happen to me. It's not really that big of a risk. Like, explain this to me. Like, how would this even happen? There's a lot of education that needs to be done. And I think it takes money and brand destruction to do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, unfortunately, I agree with you. I think it's going to have to take a very catastrophic accident out there that is going to make some people change their ways, because like, I don't know if enough people view their transportation department as anything but like a dead expense to their business. And it's kind of just like the cost of doing business. So it is an afterthought by a lot of people out there. But, again, I think the right providers that are out there, Tom, this is a phenomenal selling point when you are talking to your shippers, your prospect, and everything else. Like, hey, this is how we're actually protecting your freight. This is what we do to ensure. And, and then especially like with what you guys are building out there about stopping it at the gate, right? Like how much fraud, how much theft, how many lives, like legitimately, how many lives are we going to be able to save where, we don't load that truck because it doesn't pass the smell test. Your compliance team, your vetting, everything that you're doing stopped it from even getting in. And then if it does fall between the cracks, your software now red flags it at the shipper like, hey, this is going on out there. Do not load. A pass, no pass style system.
Exactly. And so before we were talking a little bit about, I said that we recently ran a test. So one of our customers, a big shipper, and they wanted to know how many drivers even know their DOT number. So as we were checking in drivers, we simply asked them. And so in the check-in process, we asked them. Now, we already knew the answer. We already knew who they were, and we already knew what their DOT number was. But we just asked them. Only 1/3 of them knew their DOT number. And we got a ton of totally fraudulent. I mean, they were valid DOT numbers, but then what the driver entered as their carrier and stuff, none of that matched. And so we flagged this, and we talked to the carrier compliance transportation team at this shipper, and they were shocked. So much so that they brought in the general counsel of the company and said, hey, you need to take a look at this. Like, this is the risk that we are talking about. We need to really button this up. So we're working now with that customer. We're working on procedures to block that from ever happening. But the results were pretty shocking. We ran for like a week doing this and collected like 1,800 driver interactions in a week. And the data was just remarkable. I mean, 2/3 of them were putting down almost fraudulent data.
Is there, and again, this could be too early in what you're doing with all the data. And if you don't want to answer this because you're doing something with it, just say next question. Are you utilizing, like, do those carriers now get flagged? And then have you seen any direct correlation between them, multiple authorities, and everything else out there, which would, in my opinion, if you got multiple MCs, multiple authorities, you're probably not doing the right thing. Like, let's just call it what it is.
Yep. Yeah. So we are consolidating and analyzing all of that information, and that's an ongoing process, but that is rolled into our product. So, Tom Dean is at 8 gates in a week with a different MC number. Well, that gets flagged. But we did have one down in South Florida where we caught a fraudulent CDL, and Miami-Dade ended up arresting the guy. And so it turned out that it was a fraudulent carrier ring down in Southern Florida. And it was our platform that flagged it. And the shipper said, yeah, you're not coming in. And they called Miami-Dade, showed up, and sure enough, it blew up a whole ring.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Like, I mean, that's what, because it's like, I look at with where things are with this. And again, I know I already talked about, protecting the legitimate providers that are out there. And that is something that I don't know if is talked about enough. How many good businesses have we lost to this? How many good American companies or people doing it the right way, right? I'm not against immigrants who are coming here and working here and building companies here, as long as they're following the exact same rules that we all have to follow. That's all I'm asking. How many of those providers have not been able to survive because there has just been a complete blind eye turned to this for as long as it has? And I'm glad it's getting the attention that it is. I just hope that it's not too far too gone, because rates are improving and everything out there, but not everybody just has endless capital. And if they've dug themselves in too big of a hole to try and keep their lights on, maxing out lines of credit, fuel lines of credit, credit cards, everything from the bank, and they might not be able to dig themselves out of a hole. Like, that is the true loss here. It's the loss of good business owners who are doing the right thing.
Yep, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And, after COVID, we were all kind of talking about how are all these single owner operators that, how are they able to survive? They had COVID stimulus cash for a while, but then they kept going and going and going. Well, it's fraud. That's how, right? There's so much of it. But what that's done is, to your point, it's put the legitimate good people, good hardworking people out of business, which is a travesty.
Yeah. And what is not talked about publicly, but I have a lot of friends on the financial and lender side of the industry.
Yeah.
They were pausing payments during that time because there was so much equipment out on, like, with loans, that if we called everything, they're like, we would not be able to survive that. So we had to work with them. So it's like, it was kind of a perfect storm in a sense out there, Tom, where this was exacerbated over these last couple of years, where it's like the COVID boom came in, and then they were given a lifeline, like, hey, let's pause payments for a couple of months. And then when you're not concerned about paying your bills and you can just get that mad dash for cash, I mean, it opens up a lot of things, but like, most importantly, I'm glad it's being addressed at a very high level, because, as somebody, again, I'm not saying we're perfect. We're not, but like, we are doing things by the book. And I know a lot of other really good providers out there that are doing it by the book, as long as they are given that opportunity to do the right thing and show it. I think that is what is needed out there now more than ever.
Yep. I completely agree. And because this is a great industry. And so what we're here to do at Renaissant is help the brokers, help the carriers, and help the shippers, and do it at rates that are affordable, and can then really, really help the good people out there do well and grow.
Yeah, that's what we need now more than ever, Tom. But Tom, this flew by. I knew it was going to fly by, and I hope to have you back on again a third time this year because I just truly enjoy talking with you and what you're doing out there. But how does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more?
Yep. So my name is Tom Dean. You can get to us at www.renaissant.com. That's RENAISSANT.com, or ping us at info@renaissant.com.
Perfect. Tom, thank you so much for your time. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. If you cannot find Tom or Renaissant out there, please hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact with them. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on